July the 24th, 2001, Sri Lanka. A suicide squad has destroyed 26 planes during the worst airfield attack in aviation history. But who are the terrorists? And why are they willing to die? By the time the attack is over, 8 of them have been killed by the security forces. But they'd landed yet another devastating blow on a country already reeling from 18 years of unrelenting terrorism. Outrages have included the assassination of leading politicians, the massacre of helpless villagers, massive city center truck bombs, and the bombing of holy temples. The people behind the violence are the Tamil Tigers, one of the deadliest and most ruthless terrorist organizations the world has ever known. They will stop at nothing to win independence for the Tamil provinces in the north and east of Sri Lanka. Sri Lanka is a large island in the Indian Ocean, with its northernmost tip separated from mainland India at its narrowest by the 40-mile-wide Palk Strait. Formerly the British colony of Ceylon, Sri Lanka was granted independence in 1948 and became a dominion of the British Commonwealth. 8 years later, there was an outbreak of violence on the island as the Buddhists, who made up the majority of the 17 million population, started attacking the minority Hindu Tamils. The Tamils, who'd been brought in from the southern Indian state of Tamil Nadu by the British during the early 19th century to work on the tea and coffee plantations, wanted their own separate state in the north and east of the island. But there was no way Ceylon's Prime Minister, Solomon Bandaranaike, would allow this to happen. In May 1972, Ceylon became a fully independent republic and changed its name to Sri Lanka, meaning beautiful island. Buddhism was recognized as the main religion, alienating the Tamil Hindus, who called Sri Lanka Elam, even more. Many older Tamil plantation workers were now losing their jobs through economic reform, and a growing number of Tamil youths stood no chance of getting work, of any kind. At the time, none of this mattered to the Sri Lankan government, now led by Srimavo Bandaranaike, the world's first woman prime minister. She'd taken over from her husband Solomon, who'd been assassinated in September 1959. As the Tamils' resentment grew, a youth with Marxist leanings called Valupillai Prabhakaran decided to do something. In 1972, aged 18, he founded a radical movement known as the Tamil New Tigers. Its members were dedicated to achieving a separate Tamil state, no matter how many innocent people died. However, for the next few years they did little except carry out sporadic attacks on police and local politicians and commit the occasional act of sabotage. In May 1976, the Tamil Tigers, whose numbers were growing all the time, reformed themselves as the Liberation Tigers of Tamil Elam. However, as they set up a network of training camps and embarked on a ruthless campaign of terror, they would continue to be known simply as the Tamil Tigers. Although the Tigers sought independence through violence, the newly formed political party called the Tamil United Liberation Front hoped to achieve it through the ballot box. In July 1977, the front won every Tamil area seat in a general election. But much to their fury, the ruling United National Party banned them from taking their seats in Parliament. The election resulted in a wave of racial violence against Tamil plantation workers. This led to the forced evacuation of around 75,000 of them back to the island's northern and eastern provinces. Following the anti-Tamil pogrom, which was actively encouraged by the Sri Lankan government, the Tigers retaliated by stepping up their campaign of violence. In the summer of 1979, the president of Sri Lanka, J.R. Jayawardena, responded by declaring a state of emergency and introducing a draconian set of anti-terrorism laws. These gave the police and security forces unprecedented powers of arrest and detention, which they deployed with brutal enthusiasm. The Tigers hit back, and by 1981 the violence had reached terrifying new levels. At the end of May that year, a Sri Lankan mob went on the rampage in Jaffna, the chief Tamil city in the north. They set fire to the main newspaper office and destroyed a library containing thousands of rare books and manuscripts. The Tamil people were deeply distressed by this act of wanton vandalism. At a stroke, they had lost much of their cultural and historic heritage. The Tigers now grew even more violent, and on July the 23rd, 1983, a group of them, led by Prabhakaran, ambushed a Sri Lankan troop convoy on a road near Jaffna. 12 soldiers were killed, and there was an explosion of violence against the Tamils across the country. Over the next few days, hundreds of Tamils were slaughtered and their homes destroyed. Thousands now fled, not just to the north and east of Sri Lanka, but also to Tamil Nadu in southern India. Others sought safety in refugee camps. But President Jayawardena had no sympathy for the Tamils. In fact, he appeared to condone the campaign against them. Meanwhile, the Indian government watched from the sidelines. Although the Prime Minister, Indira Gandhi, was concerned for their plight, she was not in favor of a separate Tamil state in Sri Lanka. Neither did she want Tamil Nadu in India, populated by more than 50 million Tamils, being infected by the surge of nationalism in Sri Lanka. She wanted the conflict resolved through negotiation. But as Sri Lanka headed for civil war, this seemed a forlorn hope, even though Mrs. Gandhi warned President Jayawardena that India would intervene militarily if a diplomatic solution was not found. On October the 31st, 1984, the situation changed altogether when Indira Gandhi was assassinated by 2 Sikh bodyguards in the garden of her new Delhi residence. She was succeeded by her son, Rajiv. He too wanted to end the violence on Sri Lanka, and he offered to help President Jayawardena find a peaceful solution. Although listening politely to his views, Jayawardena had no intention, as Rajiv had suggested, of allowing the Tamils some degree of autonomy. Instead, he stepped up the military campaign and imposed a naval blockade on the Jaffna Peninsula, causing severe food shortages. This resulted in a series of horrifying revenge attacks, including derailing a train. In June 1987, Rajiv's patience ran out, and he ordered Indian food drops over the Jaffna Peninsula. Realizing he could not afford to offend such a powerful neighbor, Jayawardena reluctantly agreed to an Indo-Sri Lankan pact and says he will allow an Indian peacekeeping force to try and bring an end to the violence. The troops start arriving in July and quickly gained the upper hand, but it didn't last. Finally, after 2 dispiriting years and around 1,000 casualties, the Indian government, now a coalition headed by VP Singh, was forced into a humiliating withdrawal and brought the troops home. The Tigers are still determined to achieve separatism, and in a form of ethnic cleansing, start driving out thousands of non-Tamils from the Jaffna Peninsula. By now, their leader, Velupillai Prabhakaran, is using a terrifying new weapon, the suicide bomber. There is no shortage of volunteers prepared to sacrifice themselves as they attack military bases and army patrols. Prabhakaran also has no compunction about sending them into crowded civilian areas. In May 1991, India's coalition government collapses, heralding a general election. Rajiv Gandhi, head of the Congress Party and previously Prime Minister, is determined to win. This alarms Prabhakaran. He knows Rajiv had been against withdrawing Indian troops from Sri Lanka. He's certain that if he takes control again, he will send them back in. May the 21st, 1991, Sri Perumbudur, southern India. Rajiv is killed by a female suicide bomber as he makes his way through a large crowd in Tamil Nadu during the election campaign. 15 other people also die. The attack is pinned on the Tigers. India now demands Prabhakaran's extradition. But he's safe in his secret jungle base in the far northeast of the island. From here, he will continue the terror campaign. The Tigers have no shortage of weapons, such as surface-to-air missiles and rocket launchers. A unit known as the Air Tigers, believed to be the world's first terrorist air force, uses light planes to bomb military bases, while an amphibious unit, the Sea Tigers, attacks naval targets. Much of the Tigers' military equipment is brought in from former Soviet Union countries. As well as using conventional weapons, Prabhakaran will also continue to call on suicide bombers, both men and women. It is estimated that the Tigers have deployed 5 times more suicide bombers than the rest of the world's terrorist organizations put together. Most of the attacks are carried out by a unit called the Black Tigers. Their favorite weapon is the explosive belt.
The modern suicide bodysuit is very comfortable to wear. You can carry 2 to 3 kilograms of explosives with 1,000 to 2,000 ball bearings until you reach the target.
But it's not just the suicide squads who are prepared to sacrifice themselves. All the Tigers are ordered to take a deadly cyanide pill if faced with capture, even Prabhakaran. It's a measure of their fanaticism that since the insurgency began, very few terrorists have been taken alive by government forces. In May 1993, 2 years after the assassination of Rajiv Gandhi, a suicide bomber took the life of yet another senior politician, Ranasinghe Premadasa, president of Sri Lanka for the last 4 years. He was killed in the capital city of Colombo as he took part in a May Day political rally. Early in December that year, the terrorists suffer a major setback when, after a 49-day-long operation, government forces seize the city of Jaffna, the heartland of Tamil resistance. The Tigers are driven out, but much to the frustration of the authorities, they still control large parts of the Jaffna Peninsula. On October the 15th, 1997, a massive truck bomb exploded outside the World Trade Center, killing at least 15 people and injuring a great many more. Bernard Atkins, a British businessman, was staying at a nearby hotel.
I was woken up and I thought it was fireworks because of the Poya Day, and went to the window and saw some people running away carrying guns across to the Hilton swimming pool. And then I had my face pressed against the window, and just an explosion threw me back across the room, and sat in the room for about an hour and a half before we were told it's okay to come down to the lobby and get to the hospital.
But the Tigers didn't always have it their own way. 2 weeks after the Colombo truck bomb attack, they hit hard when the Sri Lankan Navy and Air Force destroyed a ship bringing in a large quantity of arms. Commodore Sarath Wirasakira reported what happened when they spotted the vessel.
There was no response from the ship. And then after that, we kept on observing. And at about 9 o'clock, we saw it has started unloading onto small boats and going ashore. So then we started firing from our long-range weapons, and then the number of boats increased. And in the meantime, we have informed the Air Force. We wanted to harass them just to prevent from unloading.
Up to 60 people died in the attack. It didn't take the Tigers long to recover from the blow. On January the 25th, 1998, they launched a suicide bomb attack on Sri Lanka's most revered Buddhist shrine, the Temple of the Tooth in central Kandy. 13 people died in what the Sri Lankan authorities described as an inhuman act. 2 months later, the Tigers killed 30 passengers on a bus in Colombo. On August the 4th, Sri Lankan President Chandrika Kumaratunga declared a state of emergency as she and her government tried to bring the situation under control. But they were fighting a losing battle. And on December the 18th, the following year, President Kumaratunga herself was injured during a suicide bomb attack during an election rally in Colombo. But as government spokesman Mangala Samarawira explained later, she was determined to carry on.
Her Excellency, the President, who was injured somewhat in yesterday's cowardly bomb blast, is recovering very speedily, and in fact she is very much in control.
It seemed that nothing could be done to stop the Tigers, as hundreds of people continued to die at their hands. The terrorists themselves suffered a large number of casualties, but no matter how many were killed, there was always a stream of volunteers to take their place. They have no qualms about killing defenseless people, often targeting isolated villages and other settlements, sparing no one, not even women and children. Then, on July the 24th, 2001, the Tigers carry out one of the most audacious attacks in their entire campaign. A 14-man suicide squad hit Sri Lanka's main international airport, about 22 miles north of Colombo. They also target an adjacent military airbase. Using anti-tank guns and rocket-propelled grenades, the Tigers destroyed 26 planes before they're overwhelmed. It's the most destructive terrorist attack in aviation history. With the insurgency now having lasted since the mid-1970s, no one has any idea when the cycle of death and destruction might end. But in March 2002, the Tigers unexpectedly agreed to an interim ceasefire brokered by the Norwegian government. The following month, there's an even more dramatic development. Velupillai Prabhakara, the Tigers' hardline leader, announces that he's holding a press conference. On April the 10th, a crowd of excited news teams are escorted to a secret location. There they meet the famous terrorist, dressed not in jungle fatigues as they thought, but in a smart shirt instead. Prabhakaran tells them the Tigers will consider renouncing the armed struggle if a solution acceptable to the Tamil people can be worked out. He also said he was prepared to start talking about talks if the Sri Lankan government lifted its ban on the Tigers, now prescribed as a terrorist organization by 32 separate countries. The ceasefire begins 9 months after Prabhakaran's historic appearance. But it will be a fragile peace, lasting only until July 2004, when a female suicide bomber blows herself up in a Colombo police station, killing 4 police officers and injuring at least another 12. In January 2008, the Sri Lankan government pulls out of the now meaningless ceasefire agreement. 4 months later, 9 people are killed in an attack on a bus outside a Buddhist temple in Colombo. This was thought to be in retaliation for a Sri Lankan Air Force attack on a Tiger jungle base earlier. Since the Tamil Tigers launched their campaign of terror, more than 60,000 people have been killed and hundreds of thousands of Sri Lankans displaced. The key to ending the long and bloody conflict is still seen to be the terrorist leader, Velupillai Prabhakara. But unless he disbands the Tigers and the Sri Lankan government recognize the Tamils' claim to independence, a settlement seems as far away as ever.